Look up funny parenting fails. You'll see all sorts of parents messing up, and you'll realize parenting is messy, and you're going to get mad sometimes. That's normal. You're not going to be perfect. No one's perfect. We're not aiming for perfection. We're aiming for getting it pretty darn good. Hello, welcome to the Bratbusters Parenting Podcast. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach, a mother, and a mom. And I just said the exact same thing, mother and a mom. I'm a mom and I'm a grandmother. That's what I meant. I'm a mama, a mother, and a mom. Sorry, I'm getting the goofs here. Okay, and I'm joined by my daughter, Amy.
And I'm a daughter and a daughter and a daughter.
And Lisa's offspring. Okay, let's get going. Now, I never know what we're going to be talking about. That is Amy's job. So hand it over to Amy.
Okay, we have quite a few questions on anger and frustration with parenting.
The parents' anger and frustration.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah.
Is there anything you want to start out with? Like, do you see this happen a lot? Like,
I would say every single client I have ever had my whole life. Yep. Frustration, lack of patience. I don't know why they do that. They know they shouldn't. All that kind of stuff. Yeah, every single client.
Okay.
It's that common.
Did you ever feel angry and frustrated parenting?
I would say one time that stands out. My son was 2 and he had a tantrum. We were just leaving the house, trying to get to a friend's house. And I think I saw red. I literally think I saw red. I don't know what was wrong with me. I just had an off day and he just drove me nuts. We were trying to rush to get somewhere. And I think I just had back surgery too. So I was in pain. I had to pick him up. And yeah, I would say that was one time I thought I could have lost it. I didn't, but I came close. But he did survive. So, but yeah, I've been angry.
Yeah. I think what comes to mind for me is my clumsiness. I think that made you angry.
Well, it made me kind of snotty. I remember once we were at McDonald's and with some friends, and she was just clumsy. She just dropped everything all the time. But it was really weird. She could pour milk. And my son and we used to laugh all the time because she'd pour the milk and it would be like that tension bubble on top. And she was a very clumsy little girl, but she'd pour the milk, there'd be a tension bubble, and then she'd walk it over to the table like this, never spilled a drop. It was the weirdest thing. And even now, the way she's got the computer balancing on the corner of my desk, she's good at that sort of stuff. But she opens up car doors into her head, so she does weird stuff. Anyway, one time we were at McDonald's, and I was, as a special treat, we never got stuff like this usually. I got her some ice cream in a cup, like it wasn't a real sundae, it was just like ice cream in a cup. She was really little, about 3 or 4. And I said to her, if you drop that, you're not getting another one, because she always dropped everything. Sure enough, she dropped it on the floor. She never said a word. She knew she wasn't going to get another one. And my friend said, well, aren't you going to get her another one? I said, well, I said I wasn't going to. But she did end up getting better as a result of that stuff. But I remember being frustrated because I wanted her to have a sundae. I didn't want her not to have it, but I couldn't let her have one after that. But you don't remember that, do you? Or do you?
I've heard that story so many times. Yeah. It feels like I remember it,
Yeah, we get like that where we hear these stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So that's from my memories. That would be my.
Yeah, I don't know. It was anger so much as frustration. I guess that's kind of anger.
Yeah.
Well, the broken toe. That was another one.
Yeah. If you've listened to a previous episode, you may have heard the broken toe. We won't get into it.
Yeah. But yeah, I was mad at that.
Yeah.
I warned her not to break her toe. Sure enough, she broke her toe just before we went on a big ski trip.
Yeah.
I said, don't break anything. She broke her toe the day before we went.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that this is normal to feel angry and frustrated as a parent.
It's not what I was saying. I was just getting into my own anger zone. But anyway.
Yeah. I think maybe we'll move on to the questions.
Okay, let's move on to be more productive. Okay,
so we have the first question. It's Kara from the United States. The past few months, my mental health has been poor, especially. I have a 3 and 1-year-old. I've been angry all the time and yelling, and now my 3-year-old is doing it too. He is always angry and acting out. I'm doing the boot camp. I'm on week 3. But any tips more than be the leader on how to turn the damage that I've done? But any tips more than be the leader for how to turn around the damage I have done? And he's always frustrated and attitude.
Not really, because I don't really know where your real frustration is coming from. Is it just his bad behavior? I'm assuming. Okay, so this is something that you have to fake it till you make it. You just have to try and put it aside for now and go and scream into a pillow if you have to. I yeah, this is frustrating for me too, because I get this all the time in coaching. Well, how do I manage my anger? How do I manage my own emotions? It's sort of like if you go to a weight loss center and you say, how do I not eat that chocolate cake? It's kind of like that. It's going to be difficult. I never said this was easy, but once you start seeing results, that's when it starts to get easier. And yeah, and then what I really picked up on is you said, how do I reverse the damage? Just be better tomorrow and connecting and playing with him more. And the kids are very resilient. The damage is probably more upsetting to you than it is to him. So once you start connecting and having more fun with him, things will get better and he'll forget about the past. You probably never will. Mom guilt is just part of life, right? So yeah, but yeah, start letting go of that and just start to enjoy him more, play with him more, and connect with him more. And hopefully that'll lead to better things. But just follow through with the course. If you're really struggling, you're not alone. Lots of parents struggle. It's just part of the process.
And you talk about this a lot where it builds momentum. It's like once you get those one small wins, it's not about trying to get that massive win right away.
It's interesting because when I'm coaching, parents always want to talk about what they're not doing well. And I'll always challenge them on that. And I said, you just told me this is happening. Like they are having wins, but they just want to focus on the non-wins. And I say, wait a minute. What about you just told me that everything's better with this thing that we worked on? But they always want to focus on what they're doing wrong. And I want to focus on what you're doing right. That's why I talk so much about connecting. And the discipline is something that you have to do, but that's not your focus. Your focus should be on playing, because their love language is fun, playing with and connecting and bonding with your kids. The more energy you put into that, the better their behavior is going to get anyway. So you got to deal with bad behavior, but you focus on playing with them and connecting with them in their world. It's never in your world. It's in your world. Something cute that happened. I don't know where it was. I think it was on a live. And one of the moms said that the kids said to her, I'm pretty sure it was on a live. The kids said, why is your consequence a fun one? The mom, her rule was no yelling. If she did yell, she had to play hide and seek for 10 minutes. And the kid said, well, why is your consequence such a fun one? Like, you shouldn't have the heart to tell them playing hide and seek with you for 10 minutes is not what I consider fun. But isn't that the cutest thing? I just thought that was cute. Adorable. So yeah, focus more on connecting, and the small wins will get you where you want to go. And focus on those too. Parents tend to be too hard on themselves. We all are, though. We all are. You know, we're nowhere near as nice to ourselves as we are to other people. Like if you had a friend who was doing what you're doing, going through this course, because no bad parent's going to buy a parenting course, right? So if you've got a friend who was going through that course and they're struggling, and wouldn't you be very quick to point out how well they're doing, right? Do that for yourself.
I love that message.
Do you? Oh,
yeah.
I forgot what I said already.
No, I do, because it's like you always talk better to your friends.
Of course, we're nicer to our friends than we are to ourselves.
I think that's a really nice way of looking at it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll try and remember to say that again.
Okay. The next question is Sarah from Australia. I appreciate you can't speak from personal experience on this, but do you have any tips on managing parental anger? I have a 1-year-old and want to implement some of your philosophy as he gets older. I have a temper. I can completely manage it at work and in my pre-baby personal life, but I'm worried about shouting at my son and I want to be proactive.
Yeah. It's interesting. You can manage your temper at work, but not at home. So you do have control over your temper. It's just at home you let it fly. He's only 1. He's going to do a whole bunch of stuff that's going to annoy you. Whole bunches of stuff. So I would suggest if you get usually your anger comes from what the heck is wrong with him. I suggest you look at funny parenting fails videos. Just whatever social media platform you want. Look up funny parenting fails. You'll see all sorts of parents messing up, and you'll realize parenting is messy, and you're going to get mad sometimes. That's normal. You're not going to be perfect. No one's perfect. We're not aiming for perfection. We're aiming for getting it pretty darn good. There was an old episode of the old Roseanne show, the original one, and I just love this. They were talking about kids and parenting, and she goes, look, we're all going to mess our kids up. She goes, it's just to the degree that we do it that we're concerned with. So it's kind of true. We're not aiming for perfection. You're going to get angry, but start being easier on yourself and saying, you know what? I'm not the only parent who's like this. I'm not the only parent who wants to scream at their 1-year-old. So yeah, look up funny parenting fails. It'll put it more in perspective, and maybe you can laugh at yourself sometimes.
Okay, we'll go on to the next question. So Jasmine from England. My son is 6 years old, has ADHD symptoms. I find it hard to follow routine with him. Bedtime, I will say to get changed. He will ignore until I raise my voice. If I give him a consequence, he won't do it at the time, so delays bedtime. I get frustrated. Sometimes I physically have to get him changed as he won't do it.
ADHD doesn't have anything to do with any of this, really, in that it still just follow the same process. So that's the bedtime routine. I talk about this all the time. It's in my boot camp course too. Bedtime routine is by far one of my most popular things I teach. It's hard to do, but it's usually one night of hell. But what you do is you just put on the behavior board, you put down, and the behavior board's completely free. It'll be some link somewhere here. And you put down follow bedtime routine. And then you lay out a bedtime routine. And you say it's between 7 and 8, whatever you want. Make it an hour long. They have to shower, get dressed. He's 6 years old. Yeah, you might have to help him with some of this stuff. Shower, get dressed, brush his teeth. And then you can read to him for whatever time is left in that hour. And then lights out, and then you say 8 o'clock, now you stay in bed. So you don't have a problem. You didn't mention that you're having a problem keeping him in bed. That's usually the harder part. But you get that bedtime routine, and you never punish at night. If he doesn't follow the bedtime routine, don't worry about it. You actually don't want him to. You want him to learn a lesson. So the next morning you say, hey, look, you didn't follow the bedtime routine, because remember, here it is. It's on the behavior board. And remember your consequence, and check it out how you do the behavior board. And the consequence is now you have to do a chore within 15 minutes or whatever. And then if he doesn't do it, it's 24-hour media blackout. So just treat it like you're going to get him into a routine, and he'll learn that if he doesn't follow that routine, then there's a consequence. No anger in any of this. Just say you got to be responsible for your own actions. So this is just part of it. Plus you're on there too. That's what makes the behavior board work. If the parents weren't on it, to me, you're just a dictator, like you're just an authority. I don't do that. You have to be on there too. You have to show them how to be accountable by being accountable yourself. So yeah, give that a go and put it on the behavior board. See how it goes.
Yeah, the behavior board, you could find it at bratbusters.com.
Yes, bratbusters.com.
Here we are. Okay, we have one final question here. So it's Miriam from the United States. My 2.5-year-old is too young for the starboard. He yells and throws his toys a lot when he's frustrated, and it drives me nuts. I keep saying no yelling in the house, and sometimes I take him outside in the backyard for like 30 seconds, and I tell him he can come back in when he's finished yelling. But it seems like the timeout, like time out to both of us, which I know is not good, so need an alternative solution. Also, do I just let him throw things while he's having his tantrum because he's letting it out, or making him pick it up, the things in the middle of it?
Well, first of all, is he 2?
2.5.
2.5. Okay. And then she mentioned, did you say starboard? A reward chart is what I'm thinking that would be.
So it's written as starboard.
Oh, that would be a reward chart. Yeah, I hate those things. I can't stand them. They don't work. If they do work, it's temporary and they're going to backfire. Yeah, get rid of reward charts. You never reward good behavior. Can you imagine if your husband or wife had a starboard for you? Oh, you were good today. You're going to get a gold star. It's actually an insult. I think they're terrible. My baseline, I just expect good behavior and nice kids. That's all. So yeah, don't use a reward chart. Anyway, get rid of that. The timeout, I never recommend timeout. So if he's throwing things when he's having a tantrum, you physically restrain him. You physically restrain them when they're young. You don't do this with a 16-year-old, but if they're having a tantrum and they're hurting themselves, hurting someone else, or damaging property, you physically restrain them just for a minute or so. You still don't look at them or talk to them. You might take the toys away and say no, and then you hold them and look away. You're just stopping that aggressive behavior. But then you let go. If they start up again, grab them again. You still don't say anything. You still ignore the tantrum. But yeah, get rid of the starboard, the reward chart. Get rid of timeout. If you take him outside, he still hasn't learned a lesson. I think you're taking him outside because he hasn't got anything to throw around and he can sort of go wild. He hasn't got anything to damage. So you actually want them to walk into the storm. Everyone's trying to avoid the fits, scenes, tantrums, and meltdowns. You don't want to do that. You want to almost watch them walk into that because you want to show them you know how to deal with it. You want them to learn how to manage their own anger. And that's how you do it. You let them have it so that they learn how to get out of it. So everyone's trying to prevent these scenes. The scenes are the lessons. So once he starts having a scene, you just hold him from being physical and you just completely ignore it. When he's done, say, oh, you all done? You want to read a book? Do you make him pick up toys? No. How are you going to do that with a 2-year-old? You can say, oh, do you want to help me pick up toys? If he doesn't, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I don't do that. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to a lot of people. So let's say a toddler's been throwing stuff around in anger. Why would I not make them clean? Would you expect me to get them to clean that up afterwards?
I don't know.
I wouldn't do it. I don't know if I need to go on about that, but I don't do it.
Could you go on about it? Because I
You
don't
want me
know.
to?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's a consequence. You can offer them to help you clean up, but I wouldn't get them to clean up because they were out of control when they did it. And if you want them to clean up and they don't do it, you're going to get mad. You're going to try and force them to do it. So if they happen to help you clean up, that's fine. But otherwise, I don't want that to become a scene because they threw the toys because they were having a tantrum. And it's almost punishing the tantrum, which we don't do. It was a loss of control. They're only 2. This kid's only 2. Okay. If they're older, it's a little bit different. This kid's only 2. So yeah, I just wouldn't, because it's kind of punishing the tantrum, which I don't do. And you can't force them to clean up anyway. You're just going to get mad if they don't, which they probably won't. And then that'll become another scene. And you see, it's just not effective. I just wouldn't do it. I don't think I explained myself very well, but I know exactly what I'm thinking in my own head, but I'm not very good at articulating that.
No, let me dive into that. So you're saying that so you walk into the scene when it's the tantrum, but you don't want to keep on, like, you want to set them up for success afterwards. Is that the idea?
It is, because if you keep dragging it out, it's kind of dragging it out. And I don't do that. Once the tantrum's over, it's done. It is done. So it is dragging out the tantrum. You're making it another scene almost. Come on, I told you to help, and it's negative, negative, negative. I want to go from negative tantrum into positive. If they want to help you out, that's great. Oh, what a big help you are. That's what I would have done. What a big help. Thank you. But not, no, you threw that. Now you have to do this. It's messy.
You always talk about taking the high road. So is it from that mentality of you're always trying to take the high road as the parent?
Not so much. It's that I don't want to drag out the tantrum. It's all over. It's done. The tantrum is done. You do not punish a tantrum because it's not bad behavior. A tantrum is a loss of emotional control at not getting what they want. A toddler's not responsible for what they do during a tantrum. As they get older, if they throw something during a tantrum, I say, if they're 3 and over, I would say, you're not allowed to throw things. Here's the consequence. I don't mention the tantrum, though. You threw stuff during a tantrum. I never mentioned a tantrum before, during, or after. There was no point whatsoever. In other words, what you're saying is, oh, you had a loss of emotional control. That's what you're punishing. So why would you punish a loss of emotional control? That's what a tantrum is, and not getting their own way. Am I not validating their feelings during a tantrum? You bet I'm not validating those feelings. You never need to validate a loss of emotional control at not getting their own way. It's ridiculous to validate and discuss a tantrum. Absolutely ludicrous.
I think you should add the caveat, though, of when they're not feeling well and having a tantrum.
Well, that's different. Then they're sick. You always meet their needs and manage their wants. Their wants are over, their tantrum is over wants. A need is they're sick, they're whatever. You feed a tantrum, do whatever you got to do to make them feel better. If they're hungry or tired or sick during a tantrum, I feed it. I give them attention. I feed them. I give them medicine. I get them to bed. Do whatever you got to do. You meet their needs first. Then you manage their wants. Tantrums are usually around wants. Now, a very fancy word, caveat.
Do you want to hear something embarrassing?
What?
I had to mentally sound it out to make sure I said it right, and caveat. I still don't know if I did.
Caveat. Yeah, it is. I sometimes use it, actually, but I don't really know what it means.
So if I didn't say it right. It
means an exception, or something like that. But yeah, sometimes I'll use a really big word. And I even had this one client who said, ooh, fancy word coming from you. Because I always say I hate fancy words. Yeah, that's because I'm no good at them. I hate putting on airs. That's the thing. Caveat with fancy.
Okay.
We are best friends, really, but this is just part of it.
I have some just follow-up things to ask. So if you get angry as a parent, what would you recommend next steps to take?
Well, apologize for getting angry and make it up to them. Say, do you want to go out for ice cream? I feel really bad that I yelled at you. And if it's not on the behavior board, then this is how you do it. You say, look, I feel really bad about that. How about go out for ice cream? Acknowledge it. Make amends. Now, if I messed up with my kids, what would have happened?
You would have made up for it.
Why?
Oh, it's just what you did.
But why?
Because you're accountable? Is that...
Yeah, but you guys called me out all the time. I couldn't get away with anything.
That too.
Yeah, they were very quick to call me out. Sometimes I'd do something and I think, God, they didn't even notice. Sure enough, they'd come back. Mom, you forgot to do that, didn't you? Yeah, what do you want? So yeah, they were very good at calling me out. Because if you don't give your kids a say in how the household and how the family runs, then you're just a dictator. They still have to have a voice. They have to have a say. My kids, if they came up to me and corrected me, they never did it irresponsibly. They never said, no, I'm not doing that. They never talked like that. It was always, Mom, I don't think you were being fair and reasonable when you did such and such. And I go, oh, you're right. Okay, well, then your way. So, but I really believe that children need to have a say, because once you give them a say and how the family runs and you give them a voice, they come back at you really responsibly usually. And they usually have good ideas. My kids wouldn't have come at me unless it was something that they knew I would go, yeah, you're right.
And oh boy, I had a voice.
Oh yeah, they had a voice.
And I think the last thing to touch on is you just get a lot of questions about yelling in general.
Mhm.
Just what are your thoughts on yelling?
Well, parents yell because it works in the moment and they don't know what else to do. I just teach what else to do. But yelling is, I would say 99% of my clients yell. And that's why it's the rule on the behavior board. The first behavior board is usually from the parents, no yelling. Every so often I'll get both parents who say, no, neither one of us yell. It throws me off. It's so rare. I literally go, oh, well, okay, well, it throws me off. That's how common it is to yell, because it works. In the short term, it backfires in the long term. I always say what I'm teaching is short-term pain for long-term gain. What a lot of parents do is short-term gain for long-term pain, and yelling is in that department. So is all the pleaser parent stuff. Short-term gain, even if it's that, I don't even know, for long-term pain. Watch those teen years. If you're a pleaser parent, watch out. That stuff backfires big time.
Okay.
And when I say pleaser parent, what I mean by that is when you're trying to avoid scenes, you're trying to give in to their demands, you just want them to be happy, you go and you try and sort of solve all their problems for them. You're not building up strong individuals. You spoil them with stuff. You're always trying to make them happy and make everything easy for them. That's not a kind thing to do for children, because the world has lots of challenges and not everyone else is going to be treating them that way. You're going to raise self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues because they have no fortitude, they have no strength. So I made sure our home life was really happy and fun. But when I sent my kids out in the world, I didn't try and solve their problems for them. I taught them how to do it. So yeah, pleaser parents they're more inclined to go in and confront other people and say, you didn't treat my kid the way you know what I mean? Don't do that. Strengthen your kids up. Don't make everything easy for them. I even had someone who'd say, how do we make chores fun? Like they think everything for children should be fun. That's ridiculous. Why should chores be fun? Well, okay, I loved cleaning, but generally don't try and make everything fun, because life isn't like that. You're not setting them up for reality. Did I go off on a tangent for no reason? I felt like that.
A little, but I
did.
think it's a valid point.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like he didn't solve all of my problems. Like
No.
if I had a teacher that I had some issues with, it wasn't like you went in there and dealt with it.
No way. No. I talked to you about how one day, a good practice, one day you're going to have a miserable boss you're going to have to deal with. Right? Preparation for life. Yeah. Okay. Were there any more questions? Was that it?
That was it.
Okay. Do you have anything to say?
I think that was everything on my end. Do you have anything else to add to this one?
Just be easy on yourself. Lots of parents are beating themselves up over mistakes they made in the past. I get this, I would say every single day in coaching, I get this. And parents say, oh, I can't believe I did that. I feel so bad. Let it go. Let it go. If you're not willing to forgive yourself, how are you going to forgive your kids? In other words, aren't we all human? Don't we all make mistakes? That's part of life. But get good at making amends and correcting and learning from them. So there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. There's just something wrong with not being accountable and learning from them. But yeah, let it go. Let it go. You did the best you knew how at the time, and now you're learning better. So you're going to do better in the future. We're all like that with certain things, right? So anyway, I think that's it. You want to wrap it up now, maybe?
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. And we'll talk to you next time. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're ready to dive deeper, check out Bratbusters.com to learn more about the behavior board, parenting courses, and private one-on-one coaching with Lisa. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional advice. Lisa is a parenting coach, mom, and grandmother. She is not a licensed psychologist or counselor. Her services do not replace the care of psychologists or other healthcare professionals. For a full disclaimer, please visit Bratbusters.com/disclaimer.